Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Freedom Podcast. We have a very special guest, a good friend of mine today, Mrs. Sophia Janzen, and she's agreed to come on here and talk about all things. She's a mother of now 3 beautiful little babies, and
Yeah.
we haven't caught up in a while. So I'm really excited. We're going to talk about everything that we're passionate about. You are the wife of a pastor in California, and we're going to talk about married life, politics, our faith, and everything. These topics that we're going to talk about are on everybody's mind, in the nation right now. So thanks for joining me. I know we've been trying to do this for a while and
I know.
finally aligned. The
Yes.
stars aligned today. So, okay, so you're in California now.
We are in Humboldt, which is Northern California. So it's up by, they call it the Emerald Triangle. It's best known for its redwood trees
Mm.
and its grow farms.
How
So
far are you from Mount Shasta? Because I've been there.
I don't know, actually. The worst thing about, I would say, us as a couple is that this, like last year, was the first year we'd ever left the county, and we'd been here for 5 years at that point. So I think we're not as like adventurous as we would like to think. But now that the boys are getting a little older and can last longer in the car, we're venturing around. I'm not very aware of where everything is just yet. So
It's
sorry about
okay.
that.
Yeah, no, it's a big wide world out there. Before we logged on, we were just talking about I was coming back from the beach with a
Hmm.
girlfriend this morning, and we were talking about the difference between beaches on the coasts. And you were saying it's a little bit more poetic on your
It's
side,
so
like
poetic.
little
I
dreamy.
there's the scene in like Anne of Green Gables, like one of the later movies, where she's like writing poetry on the beach, and then the wind comes and like her papers scatter. All she's like wearing a full length dress. Like that's more our beaches because you're not like swimming in them. There's so much driftwood. It's very fun for photo shoots and sunsets, but as far as going casually swimming at the beach, no,
Like fun in the sun. Yeah, I know. Your
no.
pictures are amazing, though. I love you're always like, you always had such a great eye for photography. And
Thank you.
I still talk about you all the time. I'm like, I just wish Sophia was here because you photograph so well. You just like move your leg. Because before I'd be like, is this good? How do I look? Is it
You were so fun to photograph because you weren't shy in front of a camera. So you were always my favorite person because I never had to like, please just take a picture. Like I could be like, all right, I know she'll show up. I know she'll look pretty. And so now it's just a matter of telling her what I want. And you always delivered. So that was always fun.
And I channel you all the time. I'm like, okay, what did she say? Move this shoulder, look there. And my poor fiance, I'm like, do better. So
Well,
he's trying to take pictures of me.
congratulations too, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank
That's
you.
so exciting. Do you guys have like a wedding date, a wedding, any of that? Or are you taking it slow?
We literally, yes, I like slow, just because planning a wedding is stressful and like
Yes.
it's so much. And every gig I play is basically like planning a wedding.
Yes.
Like I have to be there and there's 10 million things and I'm managing a band and they're just like gremlins. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Gremlins where they're all like, yeah, like that's what it's like managing a band. Like, I know you're grown men right now, but like, why are you doing this?
That is so funny.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They're crazy and lovable usually. But yeah, so a lot going on. But we did just set a date literally yesterday. We're going to do May 1st of 27. So
Perfect.
I just wanted to like take time and
Take your time.
enjoy being
It's a
engaged.
lot. It's a lot.
And every time I tell someone, I'm like, I don't know, maybe like 2 years. So like, why so long? I'm like,
Mhm, mhm.
do you know how fast a
It would
year goes by?
I would be that person though. We got married, I think well, we had our first elopement right after a month after he proposed. And then but I think we got married in 2020, so at like the world was kind of our oyster because nothing was open. So I like to say we got married in 3 months, but it's like, anything could have been possible that year. Everyone was free. Nobody had anything to do.
I
And
miss
we got,
COVID.
you know.
I miss
Oh
that.
my gosh. I wish I had taken more advantage of it.
I
I don't
did.
think I realized how nice it was when we were in it,
Yeah.
you know? It was like 2
Yeah.
years of low expectations and
I'm into that. Yeah.
yes.
That's the new American dream. Yeah. My dream is just like to snuggle. I've realized that's all I really want out of life. Like, I
I
just
love
want to
it.
cuddle. I just want to, yeah, I don't have like, I mean, I do a lot. I know
You
people are
do a
busy and
lot.
out
I
there
know,
doing a
I was
lot.
like,
But
you're
like,
doing a lot.
but yeah, really, I'm just like, nice soft blankies and cats and snuggles. It's a simple
That is
dream.
yeah. Well, we started I think you and I have come a long way in our friendship because we met, like, at the Baker House, Maxwell Mansion era,
Yeah.
and then we've kind of, like we've kind of, like, changed a little since our days there, in
In
Rome.
in like the most beautiful ways.
Mhm,
Yeah, and I think it's so cool. I love that we've stayed friends and through a lot's happened. I know
mhm,
you and I both independently have changed friends.
mhm.
I think people have come and gone throughout our lives, and I think it's such a testament to our foundations as human beings.
Yeah,
Obviously, we have aligning principles because we keep
yes,
connecting and I love that. I know
yes.
it was your birthday and we all went to Jamaica and there was
Yeah.
some which was so fun, but
That is so crazy.
there was some weirdness with one of our friends and I'm no longer
Mhm,
friends with a couple of
mhm.
those people, but that like really thrived on causing like division and chaos
Mm,
like between us and loved that. And that was before I knew what a liberal was. That was before I knew.
interesting.
Yeah, and so throughout my life, and I know we're gonna get into this, and I'm so excited to talk to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
But so pre-COVID, right, I had met people in my life and I was like, "You're just not a good human." And I don't know what it is.
Mm,
I can't put my finger on it, but I can just feel that like they would like this one friend in particular, like she would celebrate my losses. Like when I hurt my voice for a while, we were both singers and it was almost like like just like happy that I was sad
mm,
and I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm like, why do I feel this way about these people? Like, what is that? And then after COVID, I was like, oh my gosh, you have this one common denominator. Like, you are all lean this way, like, or call yourselves progressive or liberal.
yeah.
I literally just saw a Malcolm X video the other day where he was
Uh-huh.
like, beware a liberal friend because they'll come into your life like a fox. He's like, at least a wolf, when you see a wolf coming, you're like, that's a wolf.
Mm,
But the fox comes and they show their teeth, but they look like they're smiling to deceive you. And I was like, yeah, that's been my experience. I don't know.
yeah. That's been really interesting to me because so I remember that trip specifically, but I remember walking to your room because you and I had a disagreement because we had been told different bits of information about each other, right? And I remember walking to your room thinking, well, first of all, I said I was going to do it. I was like, this is crazy. She's in the room. We're at dinner. Like, I need to just go talk to her. And I was told, like, just don't. Like, and I was like, don't talk to her. And I was like, no, we have a whole week. Like, I can't be doing this. I thought it was interesting because that's my family. My family's like, well, just go talk about it. I'm surprised you haven't talked about it. So I was like, this is what I would do as a person. I went to your room and your boyfriend at the time, you asked him to leave so that we could have some privacy. And like in our conversation, we revealed that like we had both been told like just enough about each other to keep us like enemies. And I think everyone was very shocked that we left that room friends. So that conversation actually is a big factor in how I determine a lot of my friendships now is if we are in a spot like we were in and we can't have that conversation, then there's really no point to this friendship because I'm going to offend you. I said this to a friend the other day. She's like, what if something happens? Because we're getting along really well right now. And she's like, what if something happens? I said, something will happen. Like, I'm gonna let you down. You're gonna let me down. It's not about that. It's about being able to have the hard conversation afterwards and trusting the information we share with each other and trusting each other moving forward. And if we can't have that, then yeah, I can't then the friendship doesn't make any sense. We're just being fake. That's why you and I have lasted for so long.
Well, and I think we're the same. I'm not a grudge holder. I'm like if I ever get mad, it's like a quick, like I check right away. Hey, like ask my fiance. I'm like, hey, buddy. And he's like,
Yeah.
and then who also thinks it's funny when I get mad. So, um, so I'll be like, hey, you left your socks by the door again. And he's like, never anything serious. But then immediately I'm like completely over that. And I'm like, oh, that was 3 minutes
Yes.
ago. Why are you still, are we talking about that again? Like, no.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that is so me. And what I've had to learn is that with my deeper friendships, sometimes I don't know if you ever find you're attracted to like the same people. So for instance, a lot of my best friends that I get along with are oldest siblings. I've noticed that. I'm the baby of the family. And so I like gravitate towards like people who have like their life together and like know what
I'm
they
the
want.
older. I'm the, yeah,
Just realizing that
of
as I said
6.
it.
Yeah.
Oh my, yes. Okay, you're my type of person because you guys have this like confidence that I need. I would rather deal with someone who feels like it's the right answer but could be wrong rather than somebody who's like juggling all these and I'm like, I don't know either. I need someone who like is used to kind of bossing people around and telling people what to do because I do well
Hey,
under instruction. Yes, oldest siblings are my jam. And so I just am like,
we're always like, get your crap together, Buster.
yes,
Okay.
that's exactly it. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. But I have learned with them too. If I kind of like come straight at it a certain way, they'll be like, they can navigate those hard conversations a lot more smoothly than, sometimes some of my other friends. And my counselor said this to me once. I said, sometimes I try to have a hard conversation with someone and it doesn't go well. And she said, well, what is your intention behind having a hard conversation? Because a lot of people will use honesty as a way to like vomit out all of their negative feelings and then they
Hmm.
call it honest. She's like, so what is your intention when you're honest with someone? And I said, connection, like I want to reconnect. And she said, well, then there's a difference between your intention and your impact. And so there's a lot of times where I've been wanting to say something just like I need to tell you this and I've had to like edit myself because I'm like, oh, this isn't going to impact them in a connecting way. It's actually going to probably pull us apart. But I've done that to people and they've still not been able to have the conversation. And I'm like, oh, we're just not the same thread of people, because you just want to pretend and be mad at me. And I'm like, let's just have it all out, but that's not for everybody.
Well, I'm glad you said that too about the intention thing, because that's something that I do my whole life. I've always been a truth seeker. Even when I was
Mm,
a little kid, I made my mom tell me that there was no Santa when I was 6. Like, I was like, "Don't treat me like a child. Tell me the truth." She did. So, spoiler alert if anyone's out there.
yes.
Sorry.
You're just now
Um,
figuring it out.
but my mom was cool like that. She just knew how I was. And I was always like, look, I don't need it to be pretty. I just need it to be honest. Like, I can handle it. And I love that. If someone comes up and they're like, Adrian, you have a whole head of broccoli in your teeth, I'd be like, thank you. Please don't let me be
Yes.
embarrassed. Like, help me out here. That to me is love. Like, and probably again, because I have a ton of
Yes.
siblings and every day with siblings is like psychological warfare. You are experienced with people telling you the truth, whether you want it or not.
That's probably why.
My whole family, we communicate basically only in 90s movie quotes and like thinly veiled sarcasm, death threats. Like,
That sounds
loving, but
fabulous.
it's so fun. Our holidays are lit, honestly. We have a lot of
Oh
fun.
my gosh. I love that. Yes.
It's great. And like we do, my siblings all the time, like they call me. We talked about this years ago. You were like, well, you have your yes friends, and then you have your friends that you call when you want to hear like Fantasyland stuff. You told me that. You were like, girl, call your
Yeah.
yes friend. I'm like, that's so true. I'm calling my yes friend. Yes, everything you think is true and right.
Yes.
I'm like, I thought, I suspected, and you confirmed it.
Yes. That's my big sister for me. I love it. We're getting better at it though, because we have to. She's like, all right, well, when it comes to marriage talk and stuff, she's like, Sophia, you
How
need to
dare
do
you
better.
shine a
I
spotlight on the
know.
things I didn't want to face?
If marriage doesn't do that for you already, I'm like, oh my gosh, it does. That highlights the worst things about you. And you're just like, oh, I'll get better. And then you get worse. And you get better. And then it's like, you try so hard. But the whole idea is like the value system, like the base is what keeps people together.
100%. Yeah. The same values. And it's so funny to me. Like, it was such a shock to me when people started calling me conservative, like all these
Mm,
years. I've always just thought I was like, me? Are you sure? Like,
Shocked. I'm not gonna I was so shocked. I was like, you had posted something and I was like, Adrian's I never knew where you landed, but then I was like, okay, I see. Adrian and I have a lot in common.
well, I've always been, like I said, like truth. I grew up with a lot of like very, very strict family. Like I grew up with like, I- I'm glad at the way that I grew up, but I also grew up seeing people not walking their talk and like being hypocritical. And that drove me crazy. As a
Mhm.
young kid, I was like, I will never act like that. So I grew up just wanting the truth. I like justice. I like integrity, honor, keep your word, be honest. Just tell me the truth. This is great. I know where we're at now. I just want to know where I stand. And
Yes.
like love and having your intentions, like checking your motivations, like, well, why am I doing this? Do I need a pat on the back? Do I want someone to affirm
Mhm.
the way I think? Like, no, I don't need that. I need you to be honest with me because otherwise we have no metric for anything. Really, if there's no absolute truth in the world, then it's
Mhm.
chaos. And it turns out I always thought I was like more spiritual and like, love astrology and like I studied all the world religions and basically I went full circle around the mountain and landed back at, Christianity. And I was like, oh my
Mm.
God, you guys party like that too? So all of these things I thought this whole time landed me right here where
Yes.
I I could have saved a lot of time.
Well, no, a part of it is that's always what I think
The
when I'm
journey.
bringing people. Yeah, I was just having our Bible study, and we were, there's certain parables that all the gospels share, and there's a few gospels that share similar parables, and so you'll see it in Mark, you'll see it in Matthew, but it's the parable of the seeds, and a lot of people will call it like the parable of like the sower, but it's actually the parable of the seeds, and the seeds represent the truth of the word.
Mm,
And where the seeds fall on certain types of soil, so you get four types of soil, where the seeds fall kind of dictates people's receptiveness of the truth. And so I think there was probably a time in your life where somebody was pouring truth seeds into your life, but it wasn't until you softened. So the end of the parable is that it falls on good soil, which is soft soil, and it kind of sinks in, right? And so I think you have to go around the mountain. In fact, I think there's a lot of people who call themselves Christians because they sort of just done all of the actions of Christianity, but they've never had to do the journey of it. And so a lot of them do, they lack in empathy, they don't understand. I think they probably don't really pray very often. It's a lot of stuff that like you have to go through the journey to believe in the truth of it. So like your salvation is authentic because you didn't just kind of you're not doing the motions of it. You studied, you experienced different things, and then you came to back to the truth. And that's fine. I think God's just I mean, there's no story that he's not happy about, including the guy on the cross next to him. Like that story is just as prominent as the person who grew up and spent 25 years being a solid Christian. He's just happy that you've recognized truth in him. That's what I believe.
I love it. It just it feels so good right now, and I like that you said the softening too of the soil.
Mm.
I think that's a beautiful metaphor and rings true for me. Also, I really did have a hardened heart for a long time,
Mhm.
and I had met really poor representatives of Christ. Early on, and I had had people that, inevitably people like let us down. Nobody's perfect, right? But at a young age, I learned that I couldn't trust people around me and I learned not to trust anyone and then I became like the kind of fixer in my family, like the caretaker. And we have a loving but big dysfunctional family, like most families.
Mhm.
We have addiction in my family and I kind of became the one that was like I have to do everything, I have to do it alone. Everything's like, it's up to me or it falls apart and which is like not true, first of all, but that's how I felt. And that was like so isolating and then, I think I put up so many walls around my heart to not be wounded anymore. But it keeps out love and light and goodness too when you do that. So it's like I was just walking around with like so much like loneliness, resentment, like bitterness and sadness and hopelessness. And I remember in my young 20s, I remember just having this moment where I like just fell to the ground on my knees and I was just begging God to like reparent me, like just crying, like, when you're disgusting, like snot, like choking,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
It was one of those, like, please help.
Yeah.
I can't do this. Don't know
Yes.
what to do. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like God did send mentors into my life. And at that time, it was beautiful. And every step now was like leading me closer. And then when I moved to Florida, 2 months after that, COVID hit. And I was like, I didn't
You're
know
like, thanks.
anyone. I didn't know. Perfect. Thanks. What is going on here? This is crazy. And I had already had so much chaos at that time where things just suck and you're laughing because it's just like great. Um, but anyways, then I started going to the church by my house and they have a big, beautiful choir, and the choir, I now sing in it, but
I love
here,
that. I saw yeah.
oh, well, hearing these songs. So I'm in the back. I just start sobbing like a loon. I was like in the back, I'm just like, like a weirdo. And I realized like it felt like my heart had just fully like
Mm,
released all the stuff that I'd been holding on to. And it felt like the light could finally like penetrate where it needed to go
yeah.
and just filled me up. And I was like, you mean this is free? Like, you guys,
Freedom.
does anyone know? You can just come in
Yeah.
here and feel this way every week. And it's like, have you told anyone about that?
And I feel that way too, where you're like trying to communicate to somebody, like, we don't want people to get stuck on the aha moments, but sometimes the aha moments, it's like it can happen anywhere. And my encouragement to people is just to lean into it, right? Because there's one person in particular, I won't say their name, but every conversation I have with them, I'm like, you feel it, and they do. And then it's like, okay. And I'll kind of like back off. My husband's more of the like in your face evangelist on the street type, but I'm like, all right, let's have coffee. And then we'll just kind of and then I can feel the wheels turning and I can feel it happening. And then I'm like, but I can't do it. The Bible says it's the work of the Holy Spirit in you, right? So I'll just be like, well, good. Now I feel like there's a doorway open. And then inevitably, the next time I see them, they've just completely redacted every single thing that they felt the first time. And they've actually now like dug their heels in deeper into what is causing them so much harm. And I keep thinking about that. I'm like, but it's salvation is admitting that you need a saving to begin with, and if you can't admit that, then you feel like you're gonna lose everything, and then you start to realize there's nothing more beautiful than like than the weight of your soul being lifted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the best feeling. And now like singing these songs, I I would have had like a very dim view of this 10 years ago. Like I never would have been pictured myself like like I'm an old metalhead, you know. I know I'm a jazz singer, but like
Mhm.
I love like I'm an old like rebellious like you don't I'm a sovereign being. I was very rebellious and stuff and
Mm.
that's served me well given the political climate too.
Mhm.
You don't own me. I'm a sovereign being of God, okay? You don't have dominion here. Like governments exist to serve us, but it's through the word of God. All law comes from scripture, actually, and all law is God's law. Like government is not God, and people need to realize that because they're acting like government is
Yes.
God. But yeah, now going in and like singing these songs, like even in practice, we practice usually on Wednesdays and then sometimes Saturdays too. But singing the songs, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I am always like brought to tears. It's so emotional because it feels like coming home. And it
Mhm.
also feels like the father figure I was really searching for my whole
Mm.
life, that void
Yeah.
that I always felt I had. And yeah, and it feels like the truth. Finally, after all this like searching, I've traveled the world, studied different healing modalities and all this stuff, working on like my character, things I could improve
Mhm.
myself. But like, I don't
Yeah.
know how people exist without a higher power. It's like terrifying to me. Like, how do you exist? I mean, I've always talked to God before, but now I'm really like in a different plane with it. I don't know.
Well, and a lot of people do believe in a higher power. They just don't believe specifically in the God of the Bible.
Mm.
When I had just gotten fired from Keefe Real Estate for my own actions. I was just kind of being a brat. And I was like, I need to get out of town.
I love
And
how
went
honest
to,
you are about that.
I was such a brat. This was like, I think about that for some time and I'm like, Who like, I wish I was who I am now. There's so many situations that I just woulda kinda looked at people. There was a girl I worked with who was like that. She was very just, like, not affected by anybody around her, and I thought she was nuts, but now I look at her and I'm like, "Oh, no, she figured it out." Like, you can't take anything personally, and you just go home and do what you need to do. I wish I had been more like that, but, I wasn't, so I got fired.
Part of the journey.
Yeah, it's very humbling to get fired, and so I went overseas for 6 weeks, and I went to the UK, and I was posting about being in the UK, and a lady at my church at the time said, "Hey, if I bought you a bus ticket to, like, this country village in the UK," which, I love Jane Austen. She's like, "It's very Jane Austen, it's all stuff my brother and his wife live there. Would you go stay a week with them?" And I was like, "Of course." I was like, "Of course." So she buys me this bus ticket. I take a 3-hour bus ride into like the countries of the UK, and I stay with this couple named Mary and Gordon Campbell. And he's showing me like the cathedrals, and he's showing me around town, and we're getting tea, and I see this huge Bible, and my walk with God was super shaky. Like I was going to church, but I wasn't like reading my Bible. I wasn't doing anything I was supposed to do. He has this huge, gorgeous Bible in his reading room. And I'm like, "Oh, this is so pretty," and all this stuff. And he's like, "Well, it's like one of the original King James versions of the Bible." And he's like, "I am actually a professor at Leicester University." And he's like, "I actually travel the world speaking about the history of the Bible." And I'm like, "Oh," and he's like, "Actually, one of the King James versions of the Bible that's passed out to every school in the UK is my translation of like this." Like he wrote a whole history about the making of the King James version, and the prime minister gave it to every school in the UK because it was so well written, and he wrote it like
Whoa.
absently. So I don't like, at the time, thinking of who I am now, I would have been like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in this person's house." But back then I was like, "Oh, that's
Great.
cool. I don't know anything." My husband would be like, losing his mind. And he tells me that the Bible historically is one of the most accurate books, but he did not believe in the miracles of the Bible. And so this guy who probably knows more about the Bible than any person I knew at the time didn't believe in God because he thought, well, there's a lot of history here, but there's not a lot of like miraculous truth. And so, but in his mind, he was like, there is a God, but it's not necessarily this God. This is just a really like historically accurate book as a professor. And I think about him all the time because I didn't have the courage, the confidence, or the capacity to even get into the conversation with him. But I wish so much I could go back to that room and be like, just like, dissect his mind about what was so good. How could you read the Bible and understand its history, but not believe in the truth of its God, its like Son of God, its miracles, you know what I'm saying? Like all of
Right.
that to him was like added in to keep people interested. Very
Hmm.
interesting. And I think a lot of people
Yeah.
think that way about the Bible, where they're just like, it's okay, but they don't believe in like the God of the Bible, you know?
Yeah, that is interesting. My fiance had me watch the movie with Lee Strobel, The Case for Christ.
Case for Christ, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And yeah, I learned all that it was the most corroborated like 5,000 times over throughout history. And I think it was like Homer's The Iliad, like nobody disputes that that was a real book, yet that's
Yeah.
only been corroborated like 5 times or something like that.
Yes. This is what my
Really
husband
cool.
talks about every Sunday. I wish he was here and I was trying his mind. He's so passionate about, he's read all of those, the Lee Strobel's Case for Christ, Case for, Easter, Case for the Resurrection, all of that stuff. But he also follows a lot of online evangelists. I know that Tucker Carlson has actually had two of them on his podcast recently. Cliff Connectly was one, and then the other one was Lee Strobel. And these
Wow.
are men who are just like, they've done so much research and like to disprove the truth of Christ, and then came out the other side just as intelligent, only now with all of these facts. And so, yeah, Lee Strobel is probably one of my favorites, and that's a really good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a beautiful movie, and, like, from the Midwest too, how cool is that? Like, I love that
Yes.
he's from
Yeah, like Chicago
Chicago.
Tribune. Yep.
Yeah, so cool. And it's funny, like, I always grew up as much as I love truth and everything, I've always been more of a whimsical thinker. I
Mm.
believe in fairy tales. Yes, I believe in fairies in Ireland and all that. Like anything I love, and that's why I was so attracted to, like, I love the stars, I love the moon, I love the romanticism of all of that, and learning about holistic healing and things like that, and like studying Reiki around the world and learning. I read all these books about how, they made the argument that Reiki was actually the laying on the hands of healing that Christ talked about.
Okay.
Reiki is just a Japanese word for God energy. That's what it translates to.
Okay.
And a lot of the teachings, the philosophies that I read were all of the magical elements of the Bible. It helped me fill in the pieces of Christianity that didn't make sense to me. Like
Mm.
everything else I learned, it didn't detract. I never thought that I would end up here, but it didn't detract, but instead it filled in the missing puzzle pieces of the questions that I had. So like when I came back full
Mm.
circle, I was like, yes, I mean, all of this makes sense completely to me. And before, I struggled with organized religion, just in a lot of the elements of, I believed that a part of it was created to control people, control the masses, control maybe women at the time or the peasants. It was kept out of the hands of people to give them a direct access to God, or give them, you had to go through a middleman to get to that.
Mhm.
So some of those things, didn't resonate with me. But again, like I said, I've come full circle with it. And I'm like, Christianity is the best hope we have for the world to elevate, to heal, to guide. It is the best hope of the free world. And there's nothing else like it, and especially in America, like our nation here, our laws, our constitution, it is the best hope of the free world. There's
Mhm.
nothing like the experiment of America, with as many immigrants as we take in, and our laws for governing ourselves, like our
Mm.
our constitutional republic. I used to think that Republican meant you were just a rich old white person, like a crony, like a crony old white person. Like, who are these
Yeah.
people? But now I was so wrong. I was so wrong. And I hope someone else hears this who thinks like I used to think. A Republican means that you are for the constitutional republic that is America. Like, we don't have a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. And our constitution was written by Christians, 51 Christians, except for one, signed the Declaration of Independence. Like, they wrote all of these beautiful laws into effect to protect us, to guide us, to govern us, like, and connect us with our creator.
Yes.
I see clearly. I love America. I mean, you can see, I don't know, behind me,
Yes.
it's the
I
Freedom
know. I love
Podcast.
it. Freedom.
I
Well,
never
and
thought
that's
that I'd be this person.
what's really interesting is, like, and the things that got me hung up that before I didn't know that, so thank you for educating me on that. And I think something that got me stuck on was, it was just like, okay, well, these men who established the Constitution weren't perfect. We understand that some of them were a part of some genocides, and that they some of them did have slaves, right? And so that was something that I really wrestled with until I went to, well, there were two things. One, there's a sermon by a pastor out of Washington, D.C., named Ben Stewart. He spoke about Andrew Jackson, um, and how Andrew Jackson came to the Lord at the end of his life. But the sermon was about how hard that is for a lot of people to agree with, right? Because he did so many damaging things. And so we're like, well, he doesn't deserve, right? And so the pastor's point was to say, we all like to think everything's free. And then when it's someone we don't like, we decide what they can deserve or not. His point was to say that, like, and this is something we're seeing, we can get into this later, but this is what we're seeing with the Charlie Kirk situation: is freedom is for everyone and everything until it's someone we don't like. And then we get to decide what they deserve and what they don't deserve. That was really, like, convicting for me, because I was wrestling with that when he was talking about, did you know Andrew Jackson came to know Christ? And I was like, he doesn't deserve to go to heaven. Like, I was thinking that, right? The Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., which, if you don't have to be a Christian, it actually is in no way, shape, or form a trying to push you to believe the Bible. It is solely just interesting facts about the Bible. And every 3 months, they do an exhibit on their bottom floor of something random. It's like mosaics of the Bible, artists of scripture, something like that. And when my family and I went in 2019, right before COVID hit, we went, and they had an exhibit called the Slave Bible. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Mm-mm.
the slave Bible was a Bible that a lot of either our founding fathers or just people who owned slaves gave to their enslaved people, and they ripped out certain passages in the Bible where it talked about like slaves free. And they ripped out like the whole book of Exodus, like they ripped out the whole Moses story. They ripped out any situation where slaves would be like, and they would only read them like, slaves obey your masters. And they would keep in the passages that really encouraged the lifestyle that they wanted to live. And you walk through this exhibit and it shows one of them specifically that I can remember, Harriet Tubman, was moved into love for her oppressors, but obviously still believed that she should be free. And these were all brought to her through conversations that she had with God. And the question at the end of the exhibit was, is the Bible still true and powerful, even if men use it, like in a bad way?
Yeah.
And then they had you take a sticky note and put it on this wall. And when I tell you, like this whole wall was covered, and you could walk up and there were so many people like, no, this isn't true. This isn't true. And I started crying because I thought, this is true, right? Like, so for me to be like, okay, they were white men and they weren't perfect. And so therefore that gives me the right to decide what they deserve and decide if their intentions were true, right? I felt so humbled in that moment to say, even if they were bad intended, and even if my history is that of slavery, God's power supersedes man's actions every single time. Harriet Tubman freed so many slaves and she encouraged so many people to get an education and to move forward and to do better. And that was taught to her through the word of God. And so I do think that liberals' foundation is based off of like these buzzwords that for a while were really getting to me too, where it was like, they don't want what's best for you. They want to keep you enslaved. You're just a Black person. You're just a Black female. And it was all these voices that were reminding me that were not reminding me that were kind of like, I would say, putting an enslavement mindset set over me to be like, you're only capable to do this many things and these people want to keep you from that. And I believed that for so many years. And it's just like, but the God I believe in supersedes anybody. Like, and when I started to realize that, it really helped me move through the world so much differently. And it has allowed me in different rooms with so many people that I think if I had kept the original mindset, I wouldn't even have wanted to be in that room, right? I would have missed out on opportunities to learn and grow and to teach others.
Well, I'm happy you brought that up because we had a conversation the other day. You had a story that was like, can someone please explain it to me kindly,
Yeah.
like no negativity, but like come and kindly explain why Black people are being lumped into the LGBTQ category.
And
I,
transgender.
and transgender, yeah, like why are we here?
Hmm.
And I was a little reluctant to answer, but I'm like, no, I know Sophia. She'll be cool. Like, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
She'll welcome it. I've never known you to, shun somebody's like honest, good
No.
intention. Like, yeah, you're able to navigate in a lighthearted way, heavy conversations. So that's one of the many things I love about you. But I was like, I've actually read quite a bit about this because I've always tried to decipher what it is that makes liberals believe the way that they do. And I used to think that I was liberal. I've always been socially liberal, fiscally conservative, so I guess I'd be libertarian, but not after the behavior of the past 10 years. I'm like, yeah, bye.
Yeah.
Simply cannot stand with people like this. Once I really educated myself and I was like, okay, well, that's what you say. Let me research it. Let me look it up. And so what I learned was that the history of the Liberal Party, the Democrats were actually the slave owners. The Democrats founded the KKK. The Democrats were the ones who were going around lynching Black people. It was the Republicans who freed the slaves. And because of that, most Black people were Republican. They believed in the constitutional republic. They believed in God. They were strong, beautiful, entrepreneurial spirit, church going. Black music was so beautiful. So many of the old jazz singers I listened to, the Democrats were the ones who came around and were like, with an insidious plan with Lyndon B. Johnson, he was like, let's give these N-words a paycheck and we'll have them voting Democrat for the next 200 years. They needed
Mm.
to swing the Black vote. And what the welfare program actually did was just totally cripple Black culture because the women didn't need to be selective anymore with their mates because they had a paycheck from Big Daddy government. So they
Mm,
didn't need the father figure in the house to, honor the sanctity of the union of marriage. They didn't have to do that anymore. So Black fathers stopped staying around. And, we see what it's turned into. And now we have Planned Parenthoods, thanks to Democrats in every Black neighborhood. And, I mean, which is just such an insidious institution. Like, if you research the history of Bill Gates' father and Margaret Sanger and why they started Planned Parenthoods, it was to eradicate Black babies. And which it just like, I
mm,
can't even say that out loud. It's like such a lump in my
I've heard
throat.
that.
And, like with the Black music, like the Democrat liberals bought all of the record labels and they all also, same people, own the private for profit prison systems. So Ice Cube talks about this and many other people. He's like, we were like given our lyrics to sing. They told us like what we could sing and it turned into gangster rap. And then it perpetuates the cycle of degeneracy. And now we can incarcerate Black people and keep them in the prison system. And that's how it goes. And like within a few short decades, beautiful, strong people became totally dismantled by what the Democrats had supposedly done as being advocates.
Well,
And
and what's so funny is Candace Owens, she gave a podcast episode where she talked about the type of people that the Black culture elevates. And I thought that was really interesting. Oprah is a Black woman, but I don't really see a lot of Black women celebrating Oprah. Does that make sense?
oh
So
yeah,
she would be your typical, okay, look at Oprah. But no, what we celebrate wasn't at the time, it was Lizzo. And then it was some like redheaded girl and it was Cardi B. And it was all of these women who like she's like, I don't even know if Cardi B like knows words. And and then there's Lizzo like celebrating the obesity of people, which isn't fun or healthy or great. And they're trying to make it seem cool. And there was this other girl and she's like, and they're always elevating this stereotype that just downplays women, Black women who are educated and strong and she's like, and it's kind of embarrassing because she, of course, a lot of Black people don't like Candace Owens. And so, but she was like, I would show up in Black communities and try to have this conversation with them, and they would just be more offended than wanting to listen because they had been on like this snowball effect of the culture telling them, like, this is all you have to offer is your big butts and you're jiggling and it's like and this like weird ego that comes from we don't know and so she's like it's just really hard to see them like just come behind and champion these people who are clearly just keeping them. And I had people in my life like that where every Instagram story was just them in like a thong shaking their butt. And I was just sort of like, I don't under and I wasn't getting it because that's just not me as a person. I'm always
right.
wearing like turtlenecks. But it's
No,
like,
you're always beautifully put together.
but I just was like, this is what they're being told makes them valuable. And it's a hard system to fight against because it's working so well. And what I
Yeah.
told you in that post was
Please, yes, tell us
oh
that.
my gosh, that is so funny, but the girl who was like, "Can't believe you would cry over Charlie Kirk's death," and all I had put was, "I feel sorry for this man's family," because 1, I did appreciate some of the things he had to say, but I was honest in a recent post that I couldn't list all of the stuff he's done. I can't name one of his books, but as a wife of somebody who puts themselves out there and speaks the truth, I think every pastor in this area and their wife was like, you're just like, and they were there with him. Like, it's the worst case scenario. My husband speaking on a Sunday and someone being like, I don't like this, and then just shooting him. So every pastor and pastor's wife I knew that day was really, really struggling. Connor was in like a really down mood last week. And so for me, I'm trying to explain this to her. She's not getting it. And I just said, well, you don't need to get it. Your post about he deserved this just really didn't sit well with me. And I just think it's really disrespectful and I don't like it. And then she was like, maybe you should edit yourself and you should unfriend me and you should, look into internalized racism. And until you're good enough to do any of those things, you should just like take a day off. Bye, Felicia. And that's what she said.
Oh
And then I
my
just like,
God.
I was like, and then I just wrote this long post that was like, anybody reading this, I just want to show you how long that took for her to turn against me. 2 minutes ago, she's saying you're a Black woman, which apparently is like the lowest of the totem pole. And And then now she's saying, like, you should edit yourself and you should unfriend me because you shouldn't be friends with anyone who you disagree with. And you should look into internalized racism because you're so dumb. The only reason you could agree with this is because you've been taught to hate yourself. And then bye,
Felicia.
Felicia. I know. I was like, girl, yeah,
I
I
was
was dying.
crying laughing when you told me that. I was like,
It's like,
oh my God. Bye,
and then
Felicia.
I
You
said,
did
did
not
you just
say
say
that.
bye, Felicia to me? And then she goes into like this whole tangent about it's from a movie from 1995. I'm like, I know, like you're
I
just
know
trying
what
to
it's
explain to me
from.
Black
Now
culture. And
you're,
I'm like,
yeah,
I know where
it's
it's
the
from. She's
Rafe.
like, so it's
Yeah,
not racist. It's not racist. I would have said it to anyone. And I'm like, I don't think you would have,
no,
but that's
no.
okay. She
No,
was
it's the
convinced.
racial equivalent of mansplaining to someone. Like
Yeah.
now she's explaining Black culture, a Black movie about Black culture to a Black person. I just
Yes.
like, okay, like this is what blows my mind about liberals that they cannot see this. I just start telling, I'm like, you sound vaccinated. I cannot talk to you. Like, I just like the fluoride is working. They have that like fluoride stare. They're just like really like impressed with their
It's
own,
crazy.
like, I'm sorry, did you pick up a copy of White Fragility and now you think that you're going to educate the Black masses? Like, what kind of a Karen, like, how big is your ego? It just,
Yes.
and they can't see it. Like, and that's what like drives me crazy about, gosh, yeah, it's like mansplaining. It's like if someone were to come to me and be like, "Oh, Adrian, you're just such a dumb blonde. We know you could never like pass a test or like you
Right.
get alone
And
by
you're just like,
yourself. We're gonna have to do this for you because you're too stupid." I would be like, what?
but no, it's that on top of, but if you ever need anything, Adrian, you can come to me.
Yes.
And you're like, but you
Yeah.
just called me dumb in 3 different ways. And then
Do you
I'm
not
supposed to be
see?
convinced that you're my safety when I need
Thank
something.
you. Thank
Right.
you.
And that's
That's
what
how
I
they
said.
think
I
you should
said,
act.
this is just what you want. This is about your ego. This is what makes you interesting, right? You want
Mm.
people to be like, so for instance, this is so funny. There's people like in my area who one has a trans flag in front of their house, popped up out of nowhere, by the way. And it was like in rebellion to something somebody else put up after Trump won. And then down the street, it's like another Black Lives Matter. And collectively, these two homes have said more insensitive, racist things to me than any of the homes, any of the other homes, right? With the Trump signs and all stuff. They would never even dream of asking me some of the questions that these people ask because they're asking me in an attempt to get this like response from me. And I'm telling you, my response has been like, yeah. I was out in my like driveway taking out groceries and
I
one
can
of these
picture
guys walked
you.
up to me and I'm like taking out groceries. I'm like bouncing 3 boys. I'm sweating. And they're like, oh, I just got back from the No Kings parade. And I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, we were at the No Kings parade all morning. And I was like, yeah, do you want to help me carry this box of I was like, yeah. Can you check the boy inside? Because he's gonna run into the street. Like, so in my head, I just am like, it was just he's just like standing there, and I'm like, I don't know what you want from me, but what you want is like,
You
I just fall to my knees and talk about what a
You're
great person you
so
are.
noble. Gee, yeah, like
Yeah,
they want the praise. It drives me
guarantee you, nothing's changed. If they,
crazy. Like it's identity politics, right? Like
mm,
it's mostly liberal white women. They're the worst, like crappiest people. Like shut up,
some good ones.
shut
I know
up.
some good ones, but the ones that are very like condescending, right? I had some very liberal friends that were a Bible study with me years ago, and I hope one of them doesn't hear it, but she was having a party at her house, and her old grandma was there, and she was having a spa party. So every room was like a different spa setting. And I was in the room where they put like this wax over your hands, and you had to, and her grandma came in, or her great grandma, or somebody who was not having it with me being there. It was one of my first huge encounters with racism with a white person, by the way. My other encounters have been with Black people. But but she came in and she was like, "Who are you?" And it kind of started out like innocent, just nothing I'd never heard before. Like they're always very confused why I'm the only Black person there. So I'll just say, "Oh, I'm friends with so and so." And they're like, "Oh." And I don't know what came over this woman, but she just started like, well, you can't say anything to Black people these days. I used to work with one and I could call her the N-word all the time. And now you can't even say that to people. And I was like, and there was like 10 of these women in the room, by the way, who I'd been in Bible study with, who had put Black squares up during the George Floyd thing, who were always posting about Black Lives Matter, all this stuff. And we're sitting there, and this lady's like, oh, and she's like, and eeny, meeny, miny, mo, they changed it to tiger, but it used to be the N word. And she's like, and macadamia nuts were actually called the N word nuts. And she's just going on and on. Like, she's making it very clear that she's uncomfortable with me being there. It was a really like rich family. I'm like, and I just was like,
This is weird.
was shaking. It was weird. And I couldn't move. And I remember just like tears started flowing down my face, but I wasn't crying. I just it felt so ugly.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything. And what made it worse was after it was done, they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that to me. They're like telling me, and I'm crying. And they're like, and I go, I had written there with someone, and I was like, can you just take me home? I'm feeling so trapped. I feel really uncomfortable. And they were like, no, 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 no. Let's just get food. And they wouldn't take me home. And sorry,
Like held
I
you
guess
hostage.
yes. And it was like, but you just saw what just happened, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But she's old and she didn't mean it. And you should just get over it. And I was just like, I need to go home. I ended up having to call my brother and sister who were on a date. They left their date early to come pick me up in Lake Geneva. They were in Delvin and drive me home. Because
Wow.
my friends, my liberal friends who were Black Lives Matter and Black Squares and everything, when it
Mm.
actually came down to protecting me and being like, it's really rude, right? They just stood there like Casper the Ghost. And so that's how I feel about a lot of liberals is when they're going on and on about things. I'm like, we'll just wait till we're in that situation. And I'd like to see how brave you are in that situation, because I think like most people, you freeze up. So you again,
Yeah.
it's just like a pat on the back. It's not something you're actually going to. And by the way, my parents who are ultra conservative and my brother who's ultra conservative, they would have stood up for me. They would have been like, "What?" They would have said something and like, "You need to stop talking." Like, they would have been the first
Correct.
people to correct it,
Correct.
you know? And so for me, I'm like, I don't need you to be my advocate. You're not going to, because it's a surface advocacy, right? When you actually have to get your hands dirty and look strong and stand up for what it is. You can parade down the street all you want, but when you're in that room with somebody and you just sit there and let it happen, and then you keep me there because you don't want me to leave, like, that was a lot. That was a big eye opener. It was
Yeah.
crazy. It was crazy. So I don't like pat people on the back anymore. I'm like, if you save my baby from a runaway horse, we'll talk. But otherwise,
Right.
you keep going to your rallies, and I'm just gonna stay home and protect myself.
That's what the like politics has become. It's not right versus left. Like it's just right versus wrong. It's good versus
Mm,
evil. It's like, would you do the right thing? And I had some psychopath on my comments the other day about a Charlie Kirk post. It was like rest in peace. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of like for the past like 10 years, I've had people call me the same like rhetoric, like they just regurgitate like, oh, Adrienne disagrees with me. She's obviously a Nazi, homophobe, racist, transphobe,
yeah, all the
Islamophobe,
things.
all the things. And like, I'm like, do
You
you
like
even
got a
know?
letter once, didn't you? Like an
Well,
anonymous letter
well, that
that
was
you
just
posted
telling me
about?
that I was fat, had saggy boobs, and ugly, and that I was now turning 40, which matched my BMI.
Crazy.
It was for my 40th birthday, so we went on a cruise with all my best friends. My best friend, we always celebrated birthdays together. His extended family, my extended family. We got engaged, my fiance and I. And then I came home. I turned 40, and I was like, life is so good. And then I opened my mail. I'm like, oh, birthday card. And then I was like, it was like this grotesque
In the
hobbit with
world.
saggy boobs hanging down to the ground. And I was just like, why would someone say that? But I did just get fired from a job for having conservative friends. So this is
Crazy.
what like totally set me off again. Like a place I worked at for a year, and every day it's a gay venue, and every day for a year it was like, oh my God, love, 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 love her, love her, love her. And then all of a sudden someone went through my Instagram followers list and circled every conservative that I had in there, emailed it to the owners. It was like, you need to boycott her. She can't be allowed to sing anymore. And it was like that. Like I had leprosy. I'm like, but my
What?
actions for the past year have been nothing
Right.
but loving. Judge me for my actions. Like, damn well that I'm a good person. I mate for life. If you call me and you're like, I'm hurting, I will fly to your house. I will help you. There's that old school like value. You stand up for people, do the right thing. And I don't need to post a freaking flag on my
Right. Thank you. Exactly. Like, what have my interactions with you been, right? Because that's what I'm going to
correct.
remember.
Correct.
And so for the whole, like, I'm going to put a sticker on my forehead and then you're like, she's a good person. That's insane to me. That's
Mm,
insane. It's like, are you actually a good, are you exactly? And I've said that to people like, well, Sophia, do you love gays? Like, well, someone asked me something once and I said, well, you would have to ask gays. I think it's really easy for me to sit around and say, yes. It's like every gay person who's ever met me would probably be like, oh, she's a really nice person. And not because I'm thinking, oh, they're gay, I'm going to be a nice person, but just because you haven't done anything to upset me, you haven't done anything to wrong me. So as far as I'm concerned, we're just interacting and I don't need to let everybody know I did this good thing. Let's just have an interaction, right? If Black Lives Matter, then just talk to me about how I'm doing. Then just talk to me like I
yes.
matter. Don't be like, this is what I did for you. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, who are you?
You're
What's your name?
welcome.
You're welcome. Right.
You're
And you're like,
welcome.
we had oh, I don't even know if I should talk about this, but
Audacity. It's so
we
crazy.
had somebody who we were in opposition with recently get up in front of everybody. And we thought we had tried to talk to this person in private several times. We're like, we need to have a conversation. As I told you, I'm a conversation person. No word, like ghosting, no, nothing, nothing, nothing. And Connor and I were talking about, we're like, we're going to be in the same room as this person. Let's just act normal. Like, we don't need to
Yeah.
talk about it. It's not the time to talk about it. It would be a really terrible time to talk about it, actually. Let's just be nice. Let's move on. If they want to talk to us, they'll probably wait until after the situation to talk to us, right? That's what we're thinking. No, no, no. This person gets up in front of everybody, does their whole spiel, and they're being really strange, which I just thought they were nervous. And they come to find out at the end of their big speech, they were like, and Connor and Sophia, you're forgiven, which was funny because we weren't going to ask for forgiveness. We didn't think we needed to be forgiven. Like, we needed to have a conversation where maybe you told us what you were forgiving us for, but instead it was a showboating opportunity for them to
Mm,
look like we're for
righteous.
whatever had happened. Because everyone was kind of curious, like, why aren't you guys talking anymore? And so it was like their opportunity. And that pit, like, I was like, because it made me more mad to know that, like, you don't actually forgive me. One, they haven't talked to us since, which was so funny. Two, they don't want to have a conversation still. Like,
Hmm.
they felt the tension in the room and they just wanted everyone to know that they were good people.
The good
So
guys.
they forgave us for this unknown.
Mm.
You're forgiven. We just want everyone to know we forgive you. And it
We're
was
so
so like,
holy.
we're so holy,
Yes.
we're so great. And we want to publicly say we forgive you so that, and I just was like, and the Lord really had to like settle my heart because I was like, this is the type of Christianity that like that personally affects me is this zero accountability. Like, let's just keep quoting verses at each other, but never have a hard conversation and claim, it's just as toxic as, oh, I'm sorry, I might have to feed him in a second, but it's just
No,
as
that's okay.
toxic to me as like this like savior liberalism. Because it's like, I want to let you know I helped you. And then you're just like, you know what would really help if you help me carry these groceries in? And then I'd be like, wow, that person's really sweet. They are really helpful, not throwing a flag in my face while I like, wrestle to the ground
While
and
I'm
then just
drowning.
I'm drowning with like kids and groceries and you're just like, hello. I printed this flag. I bought it for $1 at the dollar store. It's like, and I'm gonna go home and watch my TV because I'm such a good
Yeah.
person. You're like, thank you.
They just run up to you and take a selfie.
Right.
Like, look at.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, it's a caricature of what kindness is. And the Bible is very clear about this, like clear as kind. And yeah, come here, Connor. Connor, Connor. Does he need food?
Who's the
Oh, okay.
babies? Who's the baby?
Yes. He's still eating every 2 minutes.
Good for
Hi?
him.
Can you say hi to Adrian? Yeah.
Babies.
Yeah.
I see
Who
all your
is that?
pictures. Hi, babies.
He's like,
Give me some
I
food.
I know. He's like that's the thing about boys is if we want to talk about biological males and stuff, they actually your breasts know that you have what gender your baby is. So it provides you with higher calorie breast milk when you have boys. So you're like, isn't that funny? Like it just through the saliva, it knows that you have a
It's
boy or a girl.
beautiful design.
Which is come
See,
here.
to me, like that's magic. Like that That type of, yeah, that's magical. That's wild. So cool.
Isn't that
Intelligent design.
that is yes.
It's
Yes,
beautiful.
I loved what you said on the post about, Chelsea Handler. And there
Oh
was a
yeah.
lot of people there's a lot of liberals I know have said that to me, like, "You can't vote for XYZ," you know?
Oh yeah. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Like what?
Yeah.
Are you
What?
kidding me? And that's what, like, okay, so people going back to Charlie Kirk, um, that's what people I I saw this woman talking about him like dying. She's like, everyone I see talking about Charlie Kirk is like, okay, I don't agree with everything you said, but I'm sad he's dead. It's like, why do we need to say that? You can just say I'm sad he's dead.
You can
um,
just say.
but also Charlie Kirk, most everything I've seen of his, I'm like, I mean, it's the truth and you might not like it, but
That would be a better way of putting it.
he did present facts that made people uncomfortable, and
Uncomfortable.
without proper context could seem taken out of context, it could seem like that. Like the thing he said about
The Civil Rights Act, is that what you're gonna say?
I was
Or
actually
no?
going to but that too, but also the gun death thing. So he was talking about like
Okay.
people are saying, "Oh, well he said we need gun deaths a couple every year to keep guns. So that it's good that he died by a gun." And I'm like, "Okay, well that's not what he said. It's taken out of context." There's this much longer video. It's a couple minutes and he's talking about the comparison. He's like, there's 50,000 car deaths every year, but we don't take away the right to drive. Like there
Mm,
will be accidents, but people die by cheeseburgers.
so
Like
much different.
we
So
don't
much
restrict.
different.
Yeah, it's and when you have context and yes, he did talk about the Civil Rights Act and he talked about affirmative action, which goes back to what we were saying. Like, Adrian, I think you're too stupid to get a job by yourself. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I subsidize this for you. Oh, Adrian, I don't think you're smart enough to get into college by yourself. So I'm going to lower all your test scores and your peers are going to be held to this standard. Like, did you just call me stupid? Because that's what it is. And
Well,
so,
yes, indirectly. It's an indirect way of being like, you're not capable of doing this. I had heard it in the essence of like, there was a lot of bias towards the way people looked. So they would be more likely to take one person over another. I felt like that was the foundation of what it started from. Is that correct? Do you know? And then it kind of did turn into, well, now you're going to get the hierarchy without dispute, which that's where it kind of starts to turn belittling, you know? But it's like, I don't know. What do you think?
well, and like he said too many times, like, well, you can tell if something's effective by we should see Blacks thriving then. Black communities and culture should be flourishing. Are they? Because we've had
Right.
40 years of this. Are they? It's like the American Heart Association, right? Like we have 80% more diabetes than we did before you guys existed. How you doing?
Mm,
Doesn't look like you're doing too good. Maybe we should do, you know what I mean? Like the things that they're implementing and putting into place, like even like doctors, like, all the measures that we're taking in Western medicine, like people are sicker than ever. Something's wrong here, you
yeah.
guys. There are
Interesting.
more SSRIs, but yet people are more depressed than ever. Like what, we're doing something wrong. We need to look at this and it's the same thing. And that's all like the points that he was making. He was like, I think that this affirmative action actually is inherently racist. That the definition of judging
Can
someone by
see
their
that.
skin color, and that's what he was
I
trying to
can
say.
see that. Okay. And I think that it's fair also in comparison to the other things that you brought up, right? People have been making these points for like exactly like the Bible would say this, you will know them by their fruit, right? It's one thing to say you're a Christian, it's another thing to have displayed qualities in your life that people go, "Wow, there's something different about this person," right? Um and so it's the difference between like exactly what you're saying, the rhetoric of something and the result, right? What
Yes.
we were just talking about that, the intention and the impact. And while some of these things maybe were intended well, right? Something as affirmative action, like, okay, well, maybe we'll give people an opportunity that at first sight you wouldn't, right? Now it's turned into like, this is a great way to control the narrative and to control the people we put in charge by playing to their need to be flattered. The Bible
Mm,
also talks about this. Flattery is fleeting, but the wound of a friend, it can be trusted. Meaning, like you said, somebody who tells you the truth, it will hurt, right? And I think you would know this. Like if you're an honest person, it does hurt. Your body feels physically uncomfortable when someone gives you constructive criticism, when someone tells you the truth about yourself, I feel physically like I just want to get out of here, right? Like my goal, I want to escape it, but accountability and growth are also being able to hold what is uncomfortable about yourself. And the best person to do that is a friend, right? As opposed to someone being like, you deserve this. And you're like, do I? And they're like, absolutely, you're Black. And you're like, and it becomes this like opposite entitlement, you
Mm.
know? And so for me, I'm like, so this is interesting. Connor spoke about this in his sermon yesterday. There's a book called Finding God at Harvard, and it's all of these top minds who have experiences with discovering who God was. And there's a guy called Robert Coles, Dr. Robert Coles. He was a child psychiatrist, and he was doing a study about something else in a town in New Orleans, and he got there early. He saw this mob of people. He's like, the way he describes it in the book is, you would have thought the devil himself walked into town the way these people were acting. And really, it was a 6-year-old girl named Ruby Bridges walking out of a school. And the way that the white people were acting, he was like, what's going on? He had like no idea. Like he kind of grew up in the city, like segregation wasn't like, and they were like, this Black girl wants to come to our school and it's the worst. And so he was like, what? And he looked at, she was a 6-year-old girl, is this child psychologist. So he speaks to this teacher, the one teacher who was willing to teach her, and
Hmm.
he gets in really close with the Bridges family. He notices a few things. They are poor. The parents were illiterate, could not read and write, but she was one of the happiest, sweetest little girls he'd ever met. And he's like, you're facing so much hate and death, violence, and all this stuff. How are you this happy? And he said, because they were Christians. And he
Mm.
said that the parents, every day, the teacher was like, can you ask her? Every time she walks in, she walks up to the people, speaks to them, and then goes inside. And he's like, yeah, what could she say to these people telling her they're going to kill her? And so he goes, what are you talking to them about? And she goes, I'm not talking to them. I'm praying for them. And he
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
I know. She's 6 years old. And Connor's telling this story yesterday, and he's like
That makes me
tearing
want to
up.
cry. Yeah.
I know. He said that. He's like, I'm going to try to get through this story. He's crying the whole time. And
Yeah.
he's like, but she's praying for them. She'd pray for them, walk in, pray for them, walk in. And he's like, why are you praying for them? And she said, because I should pray for them. And the book describes that she's like confused about why he's asking her. And he's like, no, but why are you praying for these people? And he asks her 3 times, and she's like, because I should pray for them. So the parents kind of hear her getting frustrated, and they come into the room and they're like, what are you questioning her about? And he's like, she's saying she's praying for these people who have been yelling at her and spitting at her. And then he's like, they're like, yeah, she should be praying for them because it helps her soul and it helps them. And they're like, we pray for them too. Our minister prays for them. And he's like, why? They don't deserve your prayer. And she goes, I think they do. And she's like, you don't think people deserve praying for? And then he said he had no words. And I actually watched a video of it too. There's an interview where he's saying exactly this. And he's like, I didn't have a response. He's like, there were these white middle class people living, their best lives, living really happy, good lives. They were educated. They had access to education. They had access to money. They had access to freedom that the Bridgers family didn't have at the time. And yet there was more fruit in that family. And they were poor. They were
Mm.
undereducated. They were bullied, and they had this joy. And he said he didn't understand it. So he concluded his study with, the only reason she was like this was because she was too traumatized to understand the truth of her situation. But he did not believe that it was God in her life. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy? And so
That's
his study concludes with, she was too traumatized to know any better.
He couldn't understand it. He couldn't
Hmm.
conceive of that. Praying for me, it's like, I'm sure you feel this way too. I do pray for them. I do pray that you have the feeling that I get to live with every day. I do pray that you have joy and see the beauty. Like I go outside every morning, my cat and I chill out by the water and we have coffee and I'm like, I just see the butterflies and I see the dewdrops on the grass. And I know it sounds like cheesy, but I really am just like, my God, thank you. Like this is so beautiful. I just
Mm,
feel the breeze and I'm like, another day, God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I just, look at my little buddy, my cat. He's like 100 years old and he's just rocking and just like the simple things. And that's so gorgeous. And I didn't go to college.
yes.
I never believed, for me personally, not for anyone else, but I was very rebellious when I was younger. I was like, I'm a sovereign being. I will not conform to the institutions. I just always like believed in like the Rockefeller system for education was actually an indoctrination program. They wanted to get tax money from the other half of society, from the women. So they wanted to put the women to work so they could tax them. And that's what the feminist movement was born from. Let's convince these women to give up their babies all day, put them in the hands of the state. Now we can program them the way that we want to, which is not to be critical thinkers. It's to not to be really educated, but to be indoctrinated. We want them just smart enough to push the factory buttons and just dumb enough to be okay with that. And,
Mm,
Einstein said the true measure of intelligence is creativity, like the imagination. And they measured all of these like young 5-year-olds and they're all at genius levels. And then they follow them through our traditional education system. And
mm,
all of their IQs just systematically get lower and lower. Like all babies believe in possibilities. All babies believe in magic. All little kids believe in like fairy tales. And then they go through our educational system and it's like that guy you were giving the example of like, no, they're so indoctrinated by that time. But no, I have all these degrees. So I think I would know better than
yes.
you. These poor
Yes.
people, their happiness is delusion. It can't be real because I know because I look at the degrees on my walls. Like I'm so smart. And you're like, but your quality of life is so low. Like
Mm.
you don't see the
You
butterflies.
can't believe in the miracles of the Bible, right? Because you're
Yeah, you
just
don't have the
so much
joy.
smarter. Right, and the Bible says so often, and this is just hitting me as you're saying this, that it says, like, to have the mind of a child in order to they said, "Have the little children come to me," and the disciples are frustrated because the children are being annoying while he's trying to preach, and they're like, get away," and Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, until you have a mind of one of these, you will never draw close to me." And I think that's what you're getting at is I love that connection of, like, when we are children, there's so many like, we don't understand, right? To, like, a bad degree, we don't understand all the dangers. We don't understand the rejection. It's like, "But this is true, and this is what I want, and it's possible." And, uh, Micaiah says this thing where he goes, "Give me 3 minutes." That's what he says, which is essentially like, "I'm gonna keep doing this because I have an idea. I just need 3 minutes." I'm like, You don't need any minutes. Stop running out into the street, Give me 3 minutes to figure this out." But I do also at the same time admire his need to be like, "But there's something happening here, and I wanna discover it, and you're kind of interrupting that,
Let
mom,
me
because"
pause. Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
kill my vibe. Don't kill my
Yeah.
vibe, mom. I'm onto something
It's
here.
exactly and I love that, like, it is I don't have the time to and I love what you're saying because it says the mountains declare the majesty of the Lord, like, just looking out if you wanna know who God is, just look at his creation. Do you know what I mean? Like, just the Psalms, it's David a lot of times alone and isolated, looking at his surroundings and remembering who God was because his whole kingdom was against him, like, what you're doing is soaking in the beauty and the majesty of who God is and what he has given you to do. And when you lose that childlike curiosity, right? When you lose
Yeah.
that, you're like, okay, well, I am only these things. I am only a Black woman. So I can only do these things. And then they go, perfect. Well, we don't have to worry about her. We can move on and we can
Yeah.
and this is going to be dramatic, but and then we can kill a Charlie Kirk because we're not stopping his ability to enter a room and continuing to open the minds of the people around him. That is the most terrifying thing to a lot of people, right? Because we only imagine having those conversations, right? The friend who wrote the post about him, I said, I would pay money to watch you sit in front of a group of 1,000 people who disagreed with you and hold your own and speak eloquently and not mess up.
Yeah.
None of us could do it, but you wouldn't even put yourself in that room, right?
No.
And you're happy about the death of somebody who was brave enough to because you didn't like a lot of the things he said, but you would never put yourself in that room.
No. You don't have the social courage, the fortitude to take you're not made of that kind of stuff. And I think it like a lot of the insight that people miss with Charlie Kirk and what he taught us and like I cried so hard. I cried like I lost a loved one. And then
Mm,
like going to bed, God, I still like, I went to bed and I'm like looking at my fiance and I'm so grateful for him. And my heart broke all over again, like going to bed for Charlie Kirk's wife. And I'm like, she's never going
yes.
to go to bed next to him again. Like, I can't even talk about it. I'll start bawling because like my heart broke for that widow, like that woman that's lost her soulmate. But that one of the insights that people miss is that he called us all up to be better communicators. And like you had mentioned earlier, that's how our soul grows, is when you get into a situation of discomfort and then you have to expand to bring
Mhm.
that and assimilate that experience. And you're like, I don't like being, no one likes being rejected. That doesn't feel good. When somebody criticizes me and then I have to go home and sit with it and, okay, well, let's check this. Is it true? Could I improve here? Sometimes it's not, but a lot of times it is. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That's fair. That's not fun, but it takes a soul level EQ, emotional quotient, to be able to assess that and bring it in and be like, that's a growth opportunity.
Well, and the way to do that, I would say, is to know that your worth is beyond, right? And that's what I think stifles people from doing it. Let's say just because of who I am. Let's say as a Black person, the only people I have to look up to are Lizzo and whatever, all those people. And it's like I just sing all the lyrics where I'm in denial mode, right? And I'm like, nope, I'm the queen. I'm the best. I'm never wrong. I'm this. I'm that. Right. So I'm soaking that in. And so when someone does come to me with truth, I'm like so offended by it. Let's try the other
Mm,
side. The Bible says that my worth is in Christ's death and resurrection, right? Which is untouchable, right? It exists within the fact that Christ saw me, wanted relationship. Emmanuel, God with us, came down and formed relationship with me, right? And died because of my sin. That is unshakable. So you come to me and you say, Sophia, you were a little rude the other night, and you really need to bring down your temper or whatever. I can be like, "That hurts," right? Because it's embarrassing, the wheels are spinning. But I can go, "I trust her. I trust her values. I trust her credibility. What is her timeline? Is she able to" like, how does she interact with most people, right? And then I can go, "And also, you're still of value, but you have something you
mm,
can work on." And that's where like, it cycles through, and that's where you have to keep funneling things through, because what happens, I think, a lot with the Black community, in my experience, has been this entitlement that has not allowed them to see their actual value, right? Because if everyone's always just telling me I'm right, and if everyone's just doing what I deserve, and I kind of posted that in that post that you commented on, it was like, if I walked up to Charlie Kirk and said, "Do you think I'm not a great person?" Which one of his best friends was Candace Owens, so I doubt he would say that. But if he did say at his core, like, "I just hate Black people," then my relationship with God allows me the capacity to be sad about that, right? Like, I was sad about that woman in the room, who's saying all that stuff. And the next day I was like, I'm not going to church. And God was like, why? Right? Because I'm like, well, I'm mad. And he's like, but this isn't about you. This is about us, right? So show up at
right.
church and talk to me,
Right.
which was, long story short, but was like the start of me meeting my husband was that Sunday. So it's kind of funny.
Mm,
But I have to keep moving. I have to wake up tomorrow and be there for my kids and my husband and my job. And then I want to keep this relationship right too. So I can't be moved if you agree with me, and I can't be moved if you disagree with me. Right. So my foundation has to be beyond what I can see. And that's what
yeah.
hope is, you know, and that's what hope is. And
Yeah.
so that's
And
where I
faith.
go. And faith. And
Yeah.
it says that in Hebrews 11:1, and then well, they call it the Hall of Faith. Hebrews 11 talks about people who God accredited to being some of the most impactful people of the faith solely based on their faith, not on what they did, not on who liked them, and not on who didn't like them. And as you'll find in most characters in the Bible, were not well liked, which I think is a very telling thing, because it's not about
Yeah.
them, you
People who
know?
tell the truth are rarely ever liked.
Yes, yes.
Rarely. People do not like the truth for the most
It's
part.
no, and the
Yeah.
people we use as examples, like David and stuff, like, his dad didn't even bring him in to be considered as one of the kings, right? Samuel had to guess, like, there's gotta be one other, right? And they're like, "Oh, yeah, that guy." Like, the
Duh.
people we talk about are like, the people who are like, "Let's be like David and Goliath." It's like, do you know how many people said no to David before he had to just decide to stand up to Goliath on his own? Like, that's not a lot of us. More of
Yeah.
us are the Israelite soldiers that don't want to fight Goliath, waiting for somebody to come along. And that was what impressed me about Charlie was, yeah, a lot of people didn't like him, and it didn't stop him from going on tour. And it didn't stop him from doing podcasts, and it didn't stop him from running his business. And did he get it right? No, but like that's not the goal either, you know? And so I just wish people would open their minds more, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he did he was a force for good in the world. He ignited so many minds and opened up so many conversations and did it so in an elegant way where he showed such emotional restraint. I mean, how many people can sit there and cool customer, cool-headed, have civil conversations like that, difficult conversations. He never once insulted people, got in their faces, got angry, exploded, lost his temper. I mean, he resonated deeply with me so much because I've always stood up and told the truth, and it's always gotten me in trouble. Like in my
Always.
house, I grew up like ask my stepdad. We're friends now. We're cool now, but I grew up in a belt family. Like at any time, I said or did the wrong thing, or it was just every day. It was like belt anytime, and I was just always like, "You will not break me." Like I was like 7, but I was like, "This is Gitmo." And then in school, I would always call out like what I perceived to be like the injustice of a 12-year-old. You know what I mean? But I was like,
Yes.
I am a free person. You will not control me. I don't need to get past to go to the bathroom. This is inhumane. I mean, I don't know if it
Oh
was
my
really that,
gosh.
but it conditioned me to like then, I watched my mom when I was 14 by the medical industry be put into a hospital bed in my living room. And that's how, and the hospital doctors, Western medicine turned her into an addict, opiate addict, and just cut into her. So like my whole life, I had already had this like sense of like mistrust of the world and like the establishments and authority figures around me. And then I'm so glad that as an adult now, by the time like things like COVID and whatever came around, I had the sense and the strength and the fortitude because I'd been used to being, beat down for my truth telling my whole life and standing up for what I believed in. So by the time that came around, I was like, "Oh no, you're not playing this game with me, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
we're not I don't believe you. Like, and I'm gonna investigate." And I have enough practice, saying that. So like people like Charlie who just stand up and still speak their truth and talked about his faith. And he was actually one of the people who made me want to get married. I never wanted to get married.
Mm.
And from like 10 years ago when I started watching him, he was like just so happy. And that's why he always talked about his everyone should get married because, and then hearing Erica speak about it, she's like, he just wanted you to feel this way. Like he was so happy every day. She's like, every day he asked me how he could serve me better. Every day he asked God how he could
Mm.
serve better. Every day. She's like, and that's why he was always like, you have to get married. Like everyone should get married. It's your best chance for happiness. It's not because he was, like, shaming and judging people, it's because he just wanted you to feel the way he felt inside.
And I can agree with that too because there's a person in my life who is living with her boyfriend right now, and they've gotten into some pretty heavy hitter like disagreements. And I can just see on her face like there's still an opportunity for him to leave, right? And the idea isn't like you don't want him to leave. But in my
"Get
head,
him
I
before
was
he
like,
gets away.
"You're right. Yeah." I said, but
Catch
there
him."
is this security behind marriage. And I heard Charlie talking about with the Tucker Carlson. And I wrote, it was funny because it popped up on my feed again. And I wrote, me agreeing with Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson. I said, 2018 Sophia would be rolling in her grave. Like it was just so funny. I'm like, gosh, like how much my politics and mindset have changed in the last however many years. And so I just said the fact that I liked this post, like the old Sophia would have just like for no reason to just would have panicked. But I said to this friend of mine that you want him to propose and you want to get married. So just say that to him, like, because she never wants to talk about it and she doesn't want him to. And I'm like, but there's like such joy in your heart. You can have these disagreements.
Mhm.
Know that he's still your husband, right? I said it is very wishy washy when it's a boyfriend because it's like, yeah, he's just gonna be like, not show up one day and there's no legal obligation, there's no moral obligation. Like he could just kind of leave and disappear, and people would be like, well. And so I said, marriage is like a covenant, right? And you
Mhm.
have to work through, you have to, right? And someone said, like, the cheapest, my friend who's a divorce lawyer, the cheapest divorce she's ever had, and it was amicable and they agreed on everything and they were just ready to get rid of each other, was $5,500.
Whoa.
And so, yeah, that's a cheap divorce, is $5,500. And
Yikes.
so I said, there's so much in marriage that like just the documented version of like security. But then there is the emotional version that you guys have both agreed to show up the same way. And you can promise each other that all you want outside of marriage, but what she's feeling is in that moment, it's not there. Right. It's like, I don't care how nice this person is. Like, they could wake up one day and decide, I don't want to do this anymore. And in marriage, you can decide that, but you're going to have a wave of consequences that you,
Consequences.
and I know that that's, again, it's not the motivation, but it does bring a happiness. When Connor and I are at our wits' end, it's like, I can leave the house and go for a drive and he knows I'm coming back. Like, cause
Yeah.
we have stock in this relationship and it goes beyond, you know, just us continuing to try to agree to show up the same way. And so that's why I think he wanted to live, he lived like 5 miles away from me in Lake Geneva. And I said I wanted to live with him for the summer. And I, you know, and so he was like, well, let's just go get married. And I was like, no, 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 it has to be with all my family and all my friends and all my, and so I called my mom and I was like, he just wants to get eloped. And she's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. She's like, we'll do your wedding. You
Later.
know, she's
Yeah.
like, yeah, just go sign the marriage certificate and get married. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, it's just do it. Like, it's not a big deal. And so we did it. But it was so funny because I kept getting stuck on but she was like, just sign the papers and let's just go. And I was like, oh, and it was fine. And we had
Okay.
our wedding. But yeah, there was a safety in that I was like,
Yeah.
that he was ready for, that I honestly at the time really kind of wasn't. So I think it helped me get to a place too where I was like, all right, I'm
Mm.
ready. Let's do it. Because if I had 3 more months, I guarantee you at the end of those months, I would have found a reason for it not to work out, you know?
Flee, flee for your life. Yeah.
Yes, I was very insecure about it. So I would have probably sabotaged it by the time I came. But that was me. That's my story, you know?
But yeah, no, I can relate big time that like I'm always like kind of just slippery, get out of this. This feels like you yeah,
Yeah.
too. And then yeah, like Nick told me that he was going to marry me the first night we met, and I was like, yeah, stalker, yeah, we'll definitely do that, weirdo. I'm not gonna marry you. And it's so funny because he. At the time he was living, you know, bachelor life, he was living in a renting somebody's converted in-law suite, which was like a converted garage that they had turned into like an in-law suite. But I only ever tell him that you were living in a garage when I met you,
That is so
which
funny.
he loves. Yeah. He's like, oh no.
Move it
Living in a
up.
garage and telling me you were going to marry me. I'm like, yeah, you freaking
You're
loon.
like, yeah, lucky you, lucky you.
Yeah, no, but here I am, you know, 6 years later, he got me good.
I love it. I was so happy when I saw your post. And I'm sad that you lost that position, you know, but it is just a testament to your faith because, you know, obviously yours came at like losing a job, but that's just something that I was trying to say the other day. Christians just need to get used to. We
Mm-hmm.
will be rejected. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. And then it basically says like rejoice and be glad, right? Because you've been rejected for Christ, right? They rejected me, therefore they will reject you. And there was a wife who did that. Her husband got rejected in like a really hard way. He was a pastor. He just felt so defeated because they were going to lose a big portion of his paycheck. And he came home and his wife and kids had set up like what looked like a birthday cake and a fancy dinner. And she invited all their friends over. And he was like, what are you doing? And she said, the Bible says, rejoice and be glad. We are
Yeah.
so proud of you for being rejected because you put yourself out there. And so we're going to celebrate your courage. And he said he felt like $1 million, you know? And so, yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, and that it all goes back to, you know, I think God puts you where you're meant to be in life and sometimes where you can't see it and takes you out of situations you're not meant to be in. And
Yes.
looking back, I definitely was like compartmentalizing myself. Like I never, you know, spoke about politics. Like I've always been socially liberal. Like I've always been, oh, cool. You want to have clown orgies? Great. That's good for you. I don't, you know, don't bother me. Like whatever you do, great. Do it over
Yes.
there. I
Yes.
don't care. It
Same.
affects me 0%. I don't care. I will be here if you need me, like tag me in if you need help. But also at the same time, like I never cared what anyone did with their lives. Now everyone's been
Same.
shoving it down our throats. Now I do have a problem with it. I'm like, okay, you're encroaching. We need to stop this now. It's getting weird out here. But
Hmm.
now with that situation in particular, I was compartmentalizing myself because I could never really talk about the things I love to talk about. Like on my podcast, I love to talk about, the Constitution. I love our rights. And I wasn't free. I was just kind of dimming my light. And like, so now that they've removed that, like, I feel like
Good.
all bets are off, the gloves are off. I'm just going to proudly say what I want to say, which is that like, it's not a crime to love America, which I feel like
Right.
they've demonized that so much.
Hmm.
I've traveled the world and I've seen what's out there. Like, this is the best hope we have. Like, our laws are beautiful. Our country is beautiful.
Yes.
It's been under attack by people who hate our country.
Yes.
It's been under attack by people who hate God, quite frankly, people who hate the truth. They want to invert everything and make you believe that, ugly is now beautiful. Everything is like topsy turvy. And you've told me
Yes.
this before, they want chaos, they want division, and
Well, it's like you said. I think that you had said something about on one of your podcasts, conditional love.
mm,
And when you say unconditional love, right, it is a respect for the person in regards to their free will. It's the highest form of love because actually, our old pastor said this love doesn't exist without free will, right?
mm,
So people who are like, how could the God of the Bible allow this? That's the highest form of love. The highest form of love for a parent is to look at their kid and go, I don't want you to do this, but here's the door. If I said, my husband would say, if I said, I love you, you're free to go, and then you lock every door, right? That's conditional love. And so you
right.
had mentioned it like, are people who don't love unconditionally because they need the control. And that's called manipulation, right? And so
Yes.
sometimes I call it spiritual bypassing,
Mm,
people who kind of throw scriptural jargon in your direction to control you and to make you feel like honest conversation isn't an option here because in order to be a good Christian, you have to just let things go and forgive, right? Like that's manipulation, right? And so when you
yeah.
start picking up on these things from your friends, right? Like you said, God put you in the right place at the right time. And I don't know if you felt this way when you did walk away from those friendships, but there might have been a time when you were like, oh, I kind of miss them. And then you were like, but. And so that happened to me recently where we were dropped from this friendship and we went a whole year not talking. And I reached out to them during the pregnancy. I was just feeling sentimental and I was like, I want them to meet my baby. And I was like, oh, just text them. It's not a big deal. And I texted them and I said, here's a picture. And they sent like a thumbs up, which is, always a good start. And then it was I just want to know where we stand. We haven't really talked for a year and I just want to reach out and know where we stand. And, we miss you.
Hmm.
And they type, the text thing comes up and it disappears. And the text thing comes up and it disappears. And then they wrote back, I've been thinking of you too, but I've come to the conclusion that our personalities are just too big for each other. And that is in a stance of, I've come to the conclusion that you're still going to require me to have this hard conversation we haven't been able to have. Right. I thought it was a
Hmm.
really polite way of saying we're not going to be friends, but I knew it was motivated by control. Like,
Hmm.
we can be friends as long as you're never willing to talk about the thing ever, ever again, which isn't going to happen. And I felt so sad in that moment. I was like, but then the next day I thought, wait, maybe this was God's way of going like, no, 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 we're not going to reopen that door, even though you tried to open it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're
Oh,
where you're
yeah.
supposed to be. You're with who
And
you're supposed to be with.
that's where they are on their emotional journey too. And that's okay. People might come into your life later on, or maybe they never do, but it's okay. It's okay to grieve and it's okay to be sad. But it's okay to let them go too with love. And you can love them and send them
Yeah.
light on your end. And that's something that's really helped me is like, okay, well, I'm sending you love from I mean, I have like family members that I do that with. I'm like, you know what? I love you so much. Like, but we're not in the same place, okay? Like, you don't want what's best for me and you're not willing to connect in this way, in this meaningful way, and or be held accountable for anything. So I'm just going to love you so much from a distance and surround you with light. And
That's a good way of putting it.
I try to, like, I don't know. I see the beauty in people. Like, when I smile all the time now. I feel like a Buddy the Elf. Like, I just like smiling. Smiling's my favorite.
You've
Especially because
always
like
had a really good spirit, like an infectious spirit, though. You have.
Thank you. Like, when I was younger, I didn't smile, I think, for so long. There's no pictures of me smiling when I was a kid. I was just like,
Mm,
no, please. I think I scared people and I wasn't mean or anything, but I definitely was like, I'm not going to put up with this. So now that I feel this love inside, I want to share it. And, I smile at everyone, like wink and smile at babies, elderly people, everybody, puppies. I'm just like, hi. Do you want to be friends? I love you. And it feels so good, but not everybody is ready to receive that. Not
mm,
everybody is coming to that party. They don't want or need me. They don't need my smiles and my joy. They're not here for that. So even though that's hard to accept sometimes, I'm like, you don't want none of this. It feels good. I promise. Like, let me love you.
yeah.
I'm a bear hug
Yes.
lover. Let me love you. But yeah, not
Yes.
everybody's into that and they might never be. And I have to just be okay with that. Like,
Yeah, because everyone's, I watched a show recently where, these two friends interact, and one of the friends says, there's a lot of stories happening here, and you're only interested in the one where you're the main character. And I thought it was
like,
really funny. And I thought that, like, yes, exactly. You're interacting with someone who is in their own little main character world, and I have no idea what's going on over there. So I can just show up. I can only afford to show up at the level that best agrees with who I've agreed to show up as. And we had someone marry into the family recently who just has this kind of like Debbie Downer, doesn't talk, doesn't, takes 5 days to get back to you, doesn't, and with like one word, like just not my energy. Like my friends are very
yeah,
like, you know, and I
yeah.
was taking a lot of offense to it. And finally, what my counselor said was, that's like a mirror of something in you that you don't like, right? Like you're not comfortable with the fact that she's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's so funny, right? And so I was kind of annoyed with my counselor because she's like, why are you not okay with? And
Yeah.
it was almost like, even till I realized like there's still like a pretension in me that like I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. So even if I'm in a bad mood, I won't, right? And so that person's world like brought something out in me that I would have just denied. Like, well, of course I'm the better person for showing up 100%,
Right, right.
but it was like, she doesn't have to.
No,
You know,
I don't. Yeah, like
she can
people
show
don't
up
owe
who
us
she is.
anything.
Right,
I
right,
actually think it's funny
exactly.
when people are like that. Like, yeah, where you can look at them and still see, like, I guess the beauty in that. But I like it when you get like a surly bartender or something. They just come up and they're like, "What do you want?" I always think that's so
Yeah,
funny
you're just
when
like,
people are kind of like me,
"That's
and I'm just like, "That's funny to me." That's like not in a mean way. Not, you know,
I get what
I
you're
don't like
saying, though," where you're just
I don't
like,
like
"I
mean
don't
people, but
understand
like,
it."
yeah, I'm just like, okay, that's right on, man. That's where that's where you're at.
And in a way, that's where you're at, and I guess yeah, exactly.
And I mean, there's a time and a place for that. Obviously, like being in the service industry has totally forced me to be extremely social. Like I was a bartender my whole
Yeah,
life, which was so good for me because I was so introverted and stuck in my like shell of that. And so it forced me, well, like, so I'm going to starve if I don't interact with humans. I have to
yeah,
make money here. And then now being a musician, I see thousands of people every week and like
mhm,
you and I had this conversation, I think a couple of years ago. I called you and we talked about this where I was like, hey, like things are changing in my spiritual realm. Like I just want to tap in and talk to you about this because
yeah,
my life changed when I started asking, like, how can I serve? Like instead of making it all about me. Like I
yes,
used to go to my shows and it was only me. Like, please don't let me make a mistake or let me be embarrassed or let me mess up. And I changed it and I was like, how can I show up for them? Please, God, help me choose songs that resonate with them. Help me.
mm,
So now when I meet someone outside, I'm just like, it's all about them. It's not about my personality. And that takes a lot of emotional filtering, right? To like
it
meet
does.
people where they are.
Yes.
Because you're constantly like, do I give them a 2 or can they handle me at a 10?
Yes, yeah, you're trying to figure it out.
Too much. You can see on their faces that they're scared of you, and you're like, okay, let me
Yeah,
put
they're
some
like,
of this back in
"Okay."
the box. And that's what I love about
That
you
is
so
so
much is because
true.
like I can always be like at least a 12, and you're just like, yes,
Ugh, I love
absolutely.
it. It's like soaking up the sun, I love it.
There's no watering down with either one of us. And I love that. Be like, please, I'm here for you. Come full
Exactly.
strength. Yeah. I knew talking to you was going to be such a like a cathartic release
Mhm.
conversation. And I knew that it was going to be long. This is my longest podcast I've ever done. We're at 2 hours.
My gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh my
No,
gosh, that is so funny.
I love that. I knew that. I mean, we're like this when we catch up anyway, whenever we've like
I
gotten
know.
together and
Didn't
talked,
even
like
realize.
well, it flies by because it's beautiful. It's exactly the kind of relationships I want in my life, like my favorite kind. We're just like beautiful, honest, true. I mean, it doesn't even have to be beautiful, but it is beautiful because it is.
It's honest. Yes. And that's where I think as Christians, like that's what I would encourage people the most to do is to actually read the Bible for themselves and to just sort of block out the opinions of everybody else, like even ours, like just sit down and give the word of God a chance, right? And to see the truth and to see him show up in your life in ways that it just that confidence that you have, the confidence that I wanna walk with every day where it's like my worth is beyond what anybody sees physically and says. It is about their encounters with me, it's about their interactions with me, much like Jesus, right? Much like just people who even that Robert Coles, like, had to interact with Ruby Bridges and still didn't quite get like, it's that interaction that shows us, like, the fruit that God has given us, right? And I think
Mm.
people like when you said you're in front of thousands of people and you're interacting with them and you're looking at what can I do for you? I see so much like just even that heart posture comes from a biblical mindset. It was when John the Baptist, the one who had made the way for Jesus, was put in prison or was beheaded when he was killed. John the Baptist, Jesus's cousin. Jesus found out about it and he went away to mourn the loss of his cousin. And then he came back and there were a sea of thousands of people. I think this is either before or after he the 5,000. There's a sea of thousands of people asking him for his help. And he's in like this. I just lost my cousin. I just lost my biggest advocate at that point. And it says that he looked out on the masses of people and he had compassion, you know? And I think that that's where you're at, where you're in this position where you interact with hundreds of souls and you're able to go, I'm having things might not have gone well. I might have just gotten from my job. I'm hectic. I'm tired. I'm this, I'm that. How can I serve you? Suddenly, the traumas and the trials and the rejections and the like that is a heart posture of Christ and that will
Mm.
get you further than any demand of respect than any political, you know, any sort of affirmative action, right? People affirming you, and as I said in my post, people can take it away just as quickly as it's given, so your foundation better be on something more concrete. And so I agree with you 100% to start looking for the avenues in your life where you can serve and to pick up your Bible and read it.
I'm having fun reading the Bible really for the first time. And thank you for sharing that. I like listening to people talk about the scripture because it's something that I haven't it's like the last bastion of really like,
Mm,
education, spiritual education. Everything else I have studied, again, is like brought me here. But yeah, I love listening to the scriptures. There's so much comfort there if you are just even willing. You don't have to dive in. You don't have to go to Bible study every day. Your life
right.
doesn't have to be that. You can just say like, I'm just willing.
I'm willing.
Just have a willingness for people who are maybe like me in the past, hadn't had any exposure. Yeah, you can just dip a toe in the water.
See where it takes you. Knock, seek, and find. You know, Matthew 7, knock and the door will be open to you, seek and you shall find. Ask and an answer will be given to you. God, the gospel is so simple. And some Christians like to overcomplicate it, but he
Mm.
wants to hear from you and he is there for you. And it is his word is his bond. It's a love letter to us about his relationship with us. If we would just take the time to listen, you know,
And
this has been
for
so fun.
Yeah, and, like, for me, I just wanna tell everyone too, like, maybe you feel this way too, but, like, life has gotten markedly easier. Like, you still have the same challenges, clearly, like, being human, it's not easy being a human, but
No.
everything I feel like is secure. It's like you said about earlier about marriage, but, like, the marriage with God, you have that foundational security, and you
Hmm.
don't have to worry about my whole life, I always felt like things happened that blindsided me. Like, like a gut punch, like the rug was pulled out from under me. But like when you have that foundation that's solid, you never have to fear that again. And that's the one thing
Right.
I do know about the Bible, that more than anything else, it says, do not be afraid.
Do not be
And
afraid.
do not be afraid. And it's true. Like it feels so good. Like it's just that security that I had been craving my whole life was always there, and I just had to acknowledge it. So that's all I
I
know.
love that. I
That's all I
love
know for
it.
now.
I love that.
Thank
Yes.
you so much,
Thank
Sophia. I
you.
do so much. Like, I love your heart and your spirit and your energy. I always have. And I just knew
Yeah.
that this was going to be filled with a lot of truth, but also a lot of giggles too, as
Yes.
it
Yes.
always tends to be when we get together. And
Thank you
yeah.
for having me on, and the baby, even though he's a little sleepy sleeps, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, how could
He
he
did fall
not
asleep.
be so comfy, little babish?
Yes.
What a good
Well, it was nice
life.
to chat with you.
It was enlightening, and I appreciate you, and give those babies the smooches for me too. So
I
cute.
will.
All right, my
Okay.
dear. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.